Okay. So this is going live. Okay, we're live. Hello, everyone. Thank you all for joining me. Hopefully this is all going out right now. Let me know in the comments how everything sounds. Hopefully the microphone sounds good. We've got a slightly improvised setup today. This was meant to be all done live from Battlelink, which is one of the charities that we are donating money to, actually. Unfortunately, because of various family situations, I've had to actually go to Cambridge. So I'm currently in Cambridge. So it's slightly improvised. My microphone is currently taped to a lamp. That's kind of the situation we're dealing with at the moment. Yes, hi everyone. Okay, it seems like I am live. That's excellent news. Yeah, so that's kind of the situation. So bear with me if it's not quite as precise as it usually is. Unfortunately, again, sellotape to a lamp, I like to remind you, and also, yeah, everything should be fine. Okay, so hello everyone. Hello and welcome to the Christmas album 2022. Yay! Yay. Yeah. We do have a bit of an audience here today with some of my lovely family members who are watching in as well. So we're basically going to be going for a few of the older Christmas albums, kind of going a few of the songs from the past. And then I'm going to be actually playing you songs from this year's Christmas album, which is very exciting. It's called The Queer Adventures of Barnaby Cosmo, Space Explorer. I've got a book actually. Let me just get the book so you can have a look. There you go. That's what the book looks like. Very exciting. Okay. So I think it will take a few hours to do this whole thing. So I want to get right into it because I don't want to, I want to make sure that we get through everything because I'm very excited by this and I hope that we can share all of the album together. Okay. So basically, without further ado, I am actually going to just start off with this concept. And yeah, we'll go straight into what's going on with this Christmas album. What is this Christmas album? Some of you may be completely confused about what's going on. So I'll give you a bit of a history of what the Christmas album is and how we've got to this point in our lives. So about 5 years ago, my wife and I, Neve, who unfortunately isn't in Cambridge with me, but is very much part of this album as much as I am, we had an idea of doing a bit of a gift for friends and family. So we made something called a Christmas album. And it was called Rob Songs, and it was basically, it was meant to be a parody on whale songs. But instead of whales, it was sounds from Rob, basically. And it sounded something along the lines of this. It went... It was an hour of that, right? It was just a CD with an hour of me wailing into it. It's on Spotify, if you are interested. So that's the first year. And we thought, surely we can't top this genius thing. Surely that is the peak of the Christmas album. But actually, the year afterwards, we managed to somehow break it. So the story goes that my wife and I were in Italy and we were having an Italian meal with Italian family. I was translating for Neve. I got a bit bored. I kind of just looked at her and I looked at her and went, fish on a stick, fish on a stick, fish on a stick, it's a pike. Right? That's what I told her. And I started laughing to myself. As I've just done now, obviously. So we then wrote not just a song to do with that, we wrote an entire album to do with that one pun, essentially. So, without further ado, I've got a guitar, and I'm going to play you Fish on a Stick. Now, bear in mind, I don't know how the audio is going to sound here, so just bear with me again. It's a little bit technical, what it is. I'm also looking at chat, by the way, so keep those messages coming. It's lovely to see you all here. Hello, everyone. Okay, here we go. This is... Oh, wait, let me put the brightness up so I can actually see what I need to be reading. Okay, so here we go. This is Fish on a Stick. Fish on a stick. Fish on a stick. Fish on a stick. It's a pike. Fish with two wheels. Fish with two wheels. Fish with two wheels. It's a pikesicle. Fish who helps you mentally. Fish who helps you mentally. Fish who helps you mentally. It's a picologist. Fish who plunders and pillages. Fish who plunders and pillages. Fish who plunders and pillages. It's a piking. Fish at the bottom of your shoe. Fish at the bottom of your shoe. Fish at the bottom of your shoe. It's a soul. Fish who can lift weights. Fish who can lift weights. Fish who can lift weights. It's a muscle. Unnecessary plot device fish. Unnecessary plot device fish. Unnecessary plot device fish. It's a red herring. Fish that works with wood. Fish that works with wood. Fish that works with wood. It's a carpenter. Fish you can call over. Fish you can call over. Fish you can call over. It's a summon. Salmon, yeah. Fish who goes to learn. Oh, fish is going to learn. Fish is going to learn. It's a school. Fish who purrs. Fish who purrs. Fish who purrs. It's a catfish. Fish who isn't a PC. Fish who isn't a PC. Fish who isn't a PC. It's a mackerel. Dyslexic fish with OCD. Dyslexic fish with OCD. Dyslexic fish with OCD. It's a cod. Fish worth £1. Fish worth £1. Fish worth £1. It's a squid. Fish playing in a band. Fish playing in a band. Fish playing in a band. It's a bass space. Fish which holds the joker. Fish that holds the joker. Fish that holds the joker is Sharkham Asylum. Fish that is full. Fish that is full. Fish that is full. It's breaming. Fish on the land. Fish on the land. Fish on the land. It's dead. That's my wife's joke, I should point out. It's a good one. Fish in a game of chess. Fish in a game of chess. Fish on a game of chess. It's a prawn. Fish on the tube. Fish on the tube. Fish on the tube. It's an oyster. Fish who made a mistake. Fish who made a mistake. Fish who made a mistake. Pollux. Fish looking at bones. Fish looking at bones. Fish looking at bones. It's an X-ray. Fish with wet feet. Fish with wet feet. Fish with wet feet. It's tenchfoot. Fish fixing a piano. Fish fixing a piano. Fish fixing a piano. It's a tuna. Okay, and we're going to stop there. Thank you. I like everyone's commenting their favourite jokes there. Well done. So yeah, no, that was Fish on a Stick. There is another, I think, 17 tracks very similar to that one, but stuff like Element on a Stick, Food on a Stick, all that kind of stuff. My favourite is Stick on a Stick, which is a stack. So that was 2019 or something like that. So I'm just seeing through the comments there. I like everyone's enjoying it. Fantastic. So moving on from that, the year afterwards, we actually went and recorded actual songs. Not that it wasn't an actual song, but you know what I mean. So we recorded an album which was intended to be a song about an album about solving world problems in slightly creative ways. It contained a few different tracks that kind of were dealing with world problems and trying to solve those. And it had one track specifically which we quite enjoyed, which is about solving the problem of overpopulation and world hunger, two very big problems in the world, and obviously something that is quite complex to solve. But I think we have a solution for this. So this song is called Cannibals. Well, it's not called Cannibals, but we kind of shorten it to Cannibals. It's called Some People Call Me a Cannibal, but I Just Really Like People. And it goes something like this. I saw the news the other day talking about overpopulation. I saw the news the other day and they were talking about world hunger. I saw the news and I felt sad. I saw the news and I felt anger. What can we do? What can we say? What will they eat? Who's gonna pay? I think I have a suggestion. Cannibals, cannibals, roast the tasty animals. Eat your neighbours, eat your friends. Everything will work out in the end. Cannibals, cannibals, drop those tasty animals. Eat your neighbours, eat your friends. Everything will work out in the end. And there's 7 billion of us here. Let's face it, some of us are just irrelevant. Who would you rather save, Donald Trump or an elephant? I understand it sounds extreme, but we really need to make this sacrifice. And you never know, human meat might end up tasting quite nice. What can we do? What can we say? What will they eat? Who's gonna pay? I think I have a suggestion. Cannibals, cannibals, drop those tasty animals. Eat your neighbours, eat your friends. Everything will work out in the end. Cannibals, cannibals, drop those tasty animals. Eat your neighbours, eat your friends. Everything will work out in the end. You finish? No, not quite done. There are other options. You could eat seeds. But let's be honest, would that fulfill your needs? Wouldn't you rather eat a juicy steak? Does it matter if it's beef or one of your mates? Cannibals, cannibals, drop those tasty animals. Eat your neighbours, eat your friends. Everything will work out in the end. Cannibals, cannibals, drop those tasty animals. Eat your neighbours, eat your friends. Everything will work out in the end. Oh, thank you. So, you know, that's, if you know, this is where I announced I'm running for president 2024. And that is the only thing on my agenda, and I believe you should vote for me. Vote Rob for cannibalism. Don't clip that. Alrighty, thank you everyone, thank you. Lots of applause here, says Connor. Thank you so much. That's really kind of you all. I'm just saying, hit those high notes, Rob. You know what? My voice has improved over the last few years. I'm not saying that just to boast, but it was significantly worse when I sang it for the album. So there you go, slightly better now. Okay, so moving swiftly on, because again, I want to get to the new stuff. You know, very exciting. But actually, before I move on to kind of the last year's album, which is also we got a few songs from that, but before we do that, I wanted to just kind of talk about a few things to do with this year's album. So first of all, and this is something very important, is that we do this completely for free, right? If it's all now available online, you can see it in the comments of this video now. There's all the links to the Christmas album 2022, both the written version and the audio version. There's all on there. There's a book and an album, which we'll see in a second. But we don't do this for money, of course. If you see that there's costs associated to things, it's just because, for example, iTunes won't let me put the album up for free. I need to put a nominal fee, so it's the smallest amount I could put on. Same for Amazon. But we do this for charity. We would do this as a way to raise money for causes that we believe in. And over the years, we've supported a number of causes and managed to raise a good amount of money for these causes. So this year, there's 2 causes we are supporting, and there's links in the description below where you can donate to these causes. We have donated ourselves as well, obviously, lead by example. So there's 2 ones we are donating to. One of them is the Trans Resource Centre in Belfast. We're going for local charities this year. They obviously deal with a lot of trans issues, and they do an amazing work. And there's a link to their website where you can read up all about them and leave a donation if you so wish. No obligation, but it's there if you want to. And also we want to raise money for Battle Inc., which is a great community, basic community centre that is in Belfast as well. I go there to play board games, but they also do some great causes, again, raising for mental health and to bring the community together and to give people things to do together, which is great. So I truly believe they're a great cause. So there's also a link down there for GoFundMe page where you can donate some money to cover all their expenses and bills and to let them do all the activities they do. So feel free to check out the links below. If you'd like to leave a donation, please do. Again, this is all done for free. All we ask is that if you can and are willing to leave some money for these worthy causes. Alrighty, now I've done all that, let's get back to music. So this is the last song I'm going to play on guitar, because Christmas album 2022 is all digital this year. What I'm going to be playing today, so this is from last year's album, which is was called the Barrett's Bleak Bedtime Stories. It was meant to be a children's album, kind of. You'll see what I mean. There's quite a few fun tracks from there, but the one I quite like is a track called Friendly Raptor, which is just about a lovely friendly raptor who is not going to eat your face. And it goes like this. I'm a friendly raptor, please don't be afraid. I'm soft and cute and mean really well, and I don't kill, so I don't kill and maim. I'm a friendly raptor, Jurassic Park did me wrong. If I was let out in the world right now, I would not eat anyone. I'm a friendly raptor, I love being around kids. I do have sharp claws and teeth, but I only use them to open up tins. 'Cause I'm a friendly raptor, I should probably be clear. It is true I'm a carnivore, but I only like eating ears. I'm a friendly raptor, how fast can you run? I'm setting up a friendly race, and I'm looking for the slowest one. 1 second. Oh. I'm a friendly raptor. Look, let's be honest, mate. I've already eaten Dave, Michael and Sarah, and I really like the taste. 'Cause I'm a friendly raptor, and I have no friends. I'm really a nice guy inside. His name was Greg. 'Cause I'm a naughty raptor, and I don't care what you think. 'Cause you cannot judge me now, 'cause you are extinct. 'Cause I'm a terrible raptor. I'm gonna eat you, I'm coming to get you, I know where you live. I'm gonna follow the IP address, I'm gonna come to your house, I'm gonna eat all your family, but only the ears and the rest of the body. Ah, oh yes. Oh, I really enjoy eating all those tasty, tasty ears. Oh, I hope you have at least 2 for me. Ah, nom 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 nom. Just the notes of that song say, of course, I'm a turtle raptor, in brackets, descends into madness for a solid 3 minutes. It wasn't quite 3 minutes, but you know, that's how the song goes. All right, I'm going to put the guitar away. We're moving into new territory. Oh, God. Okay, so. Oh, right. Thank you, Rafe. Okay, so. It is time to reveal Christmas album 2022. Where's the book gone? Oh, here it is. I've got it just in front of me. I'm blind. So, here you go. This is the book. There's been a few photos circulating around. It's called The Queer Adventures of Barnaby Cosmo, Space Explorer. So I'm just going to quickly explain how this is going to work. So what we are dealing with here is a Choose Your Own Adventure book with associated musical soundtrack. Okay, so I'm going to be reading you chapters from this book. And once I finish a chapter, I'm going to be playing you a song from this book as well. Yes. That's the principle of it. It should be quite a lot of fun. We're not reading the whole book, don't worry, because obviously there's lots of different paths and stuff. Every now and then, I'm going to be giving you a choice, right? There will be 2 paths or 2 or 3 paths that you'll have to choose between. And I want you to write in chat and tell me which path you would like to go down. Okay? So that's what this is. Before I get started, something else I was going to mention is that there's a treasure hunt, right? Exciting treasure hunt, right? We do this every year. This year it's big. It's big and exciting, right? So somewhere in this book, and it is the book alone, it's not the CD as well, it's just the book. Somewhere in this book there are clues hidden for to start you off on a treasure hunt, right? The treasure hunt has 5 different puzzles that you have to solve. And if you do solve the whole puzzles and you're the first one to do so, you will win £250. I don't know how much that is in dollars, but it's a sizable amount, basically. So again, yeah, this is a fun adventure that anyone can do. You don't need to go somewhere. You don't need to do anything. All you need to do is have the book and follow the clues on the book. You're welcome to do teams. I have a Discord channel, which I'm hoping is somewhere. I'm hoping there's a link on my on this video. Where you can go and kind of follow all of the clues and kind of get suggestions from other people. I'd like to see that chat being, you know, full of messages and stuff. Share ideas, share concepts, and see who can find this treasure. Right? I want this to be a collaborative thing, not just a private thing. But yes, if you are interested in a treasure hunt, this book is now available in the description of this video and elsewhere, so you can download it and you can start looking through for clues. Okay, I think I've given one clue already, which is Cain's jawbone. Okay, that's how you're going to get started. That's for puzzle number 1, and that's it. So let's actually get on to the story. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read you a chapter of this book. I'm going to play you a song, and then there may be a choice, or we may go to a different chapter. Alrighty, so chapter 1, Barnaby Cosmo, Space Fighter. For as long as she had known, Barnaby Cosmo had always wanted to be a space fighter. When she was a kid, her parents had taken her a million times to the Space Museum to see all the models of the old spaceships, all the spacesuits, and all the weird artifacts collected from thousands of planets in the sky. On the screen, she has watched the brave Federation pilots face perilous adventures, travelling to far lands with the sole aim of proving they were worthy of their role. She had watched these courageous individuals with their medals and their stern faces climb into ships, not knowing whether they would return, but without a trace of hesitation. She had yearned to be them, every single one of them, to take part in every single adventure and to prove that she too was worthy. It was only natural that Barnaby would go to flight school, the sheer determination and stubbornness pushing her forward towards her goals. Her parents had initially been hesitant, fearing for an uncertain and possibly brief future. But Barnaby's confidence was an unstoppable force. No words of warning or alternative suggestions could change her date with destiny. She was going to be a space fighter, or she would be nothing. She obviously excelled in her training. She was top of her class. Every moment of her living time was spent on perfecting herself, readying herself for her self-realization. Barnaby completed the simulations in record times, outshining all her colleagues and her predecessors. By the time her legal age had caught up with her maturity, she had already made waves through the academy. And yet the true test was yet to come, for simulations, exams and training did not make a space fighter. A space fighter is born of fire. A space fighter is forged in the blood and the sweat of their adventures, their bones strengthened by fear and their minds sharpened by experience. Barnaby had not been in space yet, and Barnaby had not faced peril. Sure, her aptitude was fierce and promising, but everyone knew that she may be disappointed yet. On the eve of her graduation, Barnaby was shown her first spaceship. She entered the cockpit carefully. She had been in spaceships before, but she had not been in her spaceship before. It was tradition for space fighters to name their ship, and as soon as she had sat down, a name had immediately come to mind. This was Bertha, and she was Barnaby's ship. The next day she was officially recognized as a trainee space fighter in front of her peers. Her parents looked over beaming with pride. But in Barnaby's mind, only one thing mattered. Cutting the celebration as short as possible, she finally took her seat in the controls. After clearing it with her commander and ensuring all proper procedures were carried out, she turned on the engines. Less than 15 minutes later, she had done it. Looking out of the window, she could see the vastness of Earth from space. She turned off the radio, settled into a seat, and just watched. In front of her was all she had ever known, all condensed into a singular blue sphere. Directly behind her was all there is to know, a vast multitude of black everything. And in the centre was Barnaby Cosmo, trainee space fighter, a single point in space and time, limitless possibilities spread across infinity, future, past, present, nothing and everything. And this says go to 8. So we'll go to chapter 8 in a second. But in the meantime, I'm going to be playing you a track. So this track is associated with what you just heard me read. And this first track is called Barnaby Cosmo Space Fighter. And I'm just going to mute myself and play that track for you now. Alrighty, that is tune number 1. So it's a bit of fiddling to do between different things to bring me back. Here we are. Oh, here we go. For those asking, that was done in GarageBand. Just, I thank you everyone for your lovely feedback there in your messages. That's fantastic. I'll move on to chapter 2 again. I want to make sure we get to the end of at least one of the plot lines. So I'm gonna make sure we continue along. So sorry if I seem like I'm pushing on, but that's what we need to do. So chapter 2, well, second chapter we're reading, technically chapter 8, baptism by fire. Okay. While Barnaby was savouring the moment, fate was pulling strings like an elastic band ready to propel her towards extraordinary events. Barnaby had made it to space. Barnaby was officially a trainee space fighter. Barnaby had her spaceship, Bertha. But Barnaby was as far from her goal as she had been weeks, months, or years before. For it is not the location, the title, or the means that make a space fighter. A space fighter is only so when they have proved their worth in battle, both metaphorically and literally. Chance would have it that on a distant planet not too far prior, a series of events had occurred that would change human history forever. Enter the Coricons, a humanoid species that live in the Yonder galaxy. The Coricons evolved similarly to humans on Earth, except they were not carbon-based, but gold-based. The Yonder galaxy, and especially Coric, their home planet, was formed when numerous high-density stars collided, producing large quantities of otherwise rare elements. The Coricons evolved to create intricate cities, often on many levels. They enjoyed a form of sport called squidstall, and were known for being great mathematicians. They spent thousands of years expanding through their galaxy, eventually reaching new ones and incorporating them into their large network. Humans on Earth were not aware of the Coricons. They had met alien civilizations, some with 10 arms and some made entirely of gases, but had not yet stumbled across the Yonder galaxy. But what humans had discovered was gold. Humans loved gold. Some humans craved gold more than food and drink, and had spent their lives amassing as much gold as possible, building statues as large as planets which floated through the solar system. And unbeknown to them, their desire had real physical consequences. Human scientists had been developing wire theory and had suggested the existence of 37 separate dimensions. In reality, there are many more, and one of those unknown dimensions could be called emotional gravity. By wanting something so strongly, individuals can send invisible waves through non-detectable fields which slowly pull the two bodies together. And this is what happened with the Coricons. The lust of man for gold was so strong that Coricons, who were made of gold, literally felt pulled towards the Milky Way. Upon discovering humanity and the many flaws, the Coricons immediately decided that humanity should be destroyed. It was the first complete unanimous decision the Coricons had taken, despite their humongous population size. And therefore, while Barnaby was enjoying her achievements, she saw a spaceship whizzing past her window. Then another. She turned on the radio and heard the news. Earth was under attack, and everyone was urged to help. Her direct commander shouted some orders before going silent. Barnaby jumped to the controls and started flying, adrenaline guiding her hands. From her window she saw a fleet which easily outnumbered Earth's forces tenfold. Her allies and friends were each disappearing in flashes of red fire. Barnaby's mind was racing. It was textbook suicide mission, the space fighters barely making a dent in the Coricon fleet. Suddenly, and for the first time, Barnaby experienced hesitation. Should she rush headfirst to death, join her friends in an impossible dream of victory, and become the space fighter she was trained to be? Or did it really matter? Was life not preferable to certain death? And now I put forward to you a choice. So let me know in the comments what you would like to do. You can either run away from the fight and try and save yourself, or fight the Coricons to your dying breath. So tell me what you would like Barnaby to do in this occasion. And in the meantime, I'm going to play the song for chapter 8, Baptism by Fire. So here we go. Alrighty, so that is baptism by fire. Let me just get back my own image. There we go. Hello, here I am. Oh, so just trying to make sure the light doesn't flash into your eyes. Guys, thank you so much for your lovely comments. There's a lot of lovely things that you're all saying. Oh, Jewel, the songs are so good. That's really kind of you to say. Again, the whole point of this is that it's meant to be fun. I've intentionally left stuff unpolished because I want to, it feel like a project that I wanted to do rather than something I'm doing for a job, basically. So this is just fun, and we're all having fun together. All right, so you've all had a bit of a vote. I'm going to have a quick read and kind of see what people want us to do. There is quite a split vote. There's some people who say save yourself. Some people say fight. I think we are. Is it an even split? There's one. Yeah. Some people have said run away. Some people have said to fight. I don't really know because it's 2 versus 2 by the looks of it. Well, I think in that case we should go with the audience in the room. I think people in the room get priority, I'm afraid, if the case of a draw. And in which case, Rafe, who is currently sitting here in front of me.
Fight.
Okay, we hear a chant of fight. So I think that's what we're going to go for. We are fighting. We're going to fight according to Dime Breath. So go to 54. Okay, so this chapter is called And Then There Were None. Barnaby closed her eyes and took a moment to clear her head. What was fear suddenly turned into steely determination. Every fibre of her body began tingling as adrenaline started pumping through her system. Barnaby finally opened her eyes and let out a scream that could have easily scared a lion. She pushed the engines into full gear, mostly through sheer impulse rather than rational thought. Bertha sped forward towards the quiet space, rushing towards the hordes of Coricons. She was not alone, as other space fighters of various ranks had also begun a counterattack. There were probably 1,000 spaceships moving away from Earth, and certainly another thousands were on their way. Of the 1,000 ships, Barnaby was by far the fastest, even quicker than other ships with the same design. It was like Barnaby's raw energy was feeding directly into the ship's engine, causing it to work at double efficiency. A voice appeared on the radio. The commander of a battalion shouted a series of orders which largely had no impact on Barnaby's action. Whatever force was driving her was in the front seat, and her thoughts fell 20 seconds too late at each decision. The general sense of the orders was, attack! Barnaby did not know if communication had been opened with the Coricons, if an attempt was made to find a peaceful resolution to the current situation. The Federation was not known for diplomacy, but for action. When you build a world on constant expansion through military intervention, chances are you're not great at talking or emphasizing with others. The Coricons were themselves stubborn individuals, but it could be reasonable. Unfortunately, it is difficult to be reasonable when a fairly dangerous civilization is throwing all of its forces towards you. Humans had a reputation in the universe for being capable of the greatest feats when pushed. They spent half their time destroying themselves and the other half destroying the solar system they inhabited. And yet they survived against all odds through the same determination to succeed that was currently cruising through Barnaby's veins. In the eyes of the Coricons, their only option was to open fire against the oncoming suicidal fleet. The orders were given and the weapons started firing. Barnaby was head of the fleet and was one of the first ships to open fire. Something had stopped her from firing first, but once surrounding Allied ships started exploding, there was no turning back. She quickly dispatched a Coricon ship, then another and a third. She had to turn sharply to avoid a hit to the main hull of her ship, which gave a chance to ships behind her to catch up. During her maneuver, she could see the state of the battlefield. Space was awake with fire and death. Spaceships from both sides were being destroyed, often causing chain reactions as debris from one ship caused others to suffer fatal damage. Barnaby straightened up for a second charge, this time taking out 2 Coricon ships. It was clear to all those present that the humans were inflicting the most damage, and every human ship that went down was taking 3 or 4 Coricon ships with them. Yet the Coricons had maybe 10 times the fleet, and it was obvious that in the long run humanity would be destroyed. This realization seemed to change nothing in the actions of either opponent. After some time and with the thinning of the human fleet, the Coricons deemed it safe to move in with their world destroyers. Their ships carried powerful weaponry capable of causing planets to implode. They were slow ships with many weaknesses, and Barnaby and the other survivors focused fire on them, taking a fair number down. But with every passing minute, the human defenders grew weaker and the world destroyers came closer. Suddenly, a bright flash appeared in space. A shockwave shook Bertha, and Barnaby knew it was too late. There's not a choice at the end of this chapter. We'll go to 25 after this, but I'll play you this song first. Bear in mind, this song is a bit of an odd one. It's interesting from a technical standpoint, but imagine obviously the confusion of the battlefield. Okay, here we go. Yes, I know, confusing track indeed. For those who are speculating in the chat, by the way, this is inspired by Philip Glass, actually, from the film Koyana Squatsi. If you really want to know where that comes from, essentially, not obviously the same song, but inspired by. So yes, we've hit rock bottom. That's the name of this chapter. From her window, Barnaby saw the final moments of Earth unfold. A ray left one of the Coricon world destroyers and then travelled silently through space. Almost instantaneously, the world destroyer was shot down and a large explosion ripped it apart. Yet the ray travelled on towards Earth. The world destroyer was roughly 1.5 million kilometres from Earth, which meant it took a full 5 seconds before impact. I did the maths. From that distance, the Earth appeared to Barnaby as a bit smaller than the size of the moon, looking like from Earth. Yet it was a bit brighter, partly due to the light pollution that had become an increasingly significant issue in recent years. In those 5 seconds, Barnaby's eyes followed the ray with full realization of what was about to occur. Then the explosion started, initially only at the point of impact, but then from within Earth itself, tearing the planet into several pieces and projecting them into space. Earth was no more. Barnaby's initial response was apathy. She took her hands off the controls and just stared blankly through the window. She barely reacted when a stray hit damaged Bertha, sending her in a spiral through space. In the meantime, Barnaby's remaining companions were being taken down one by one. She didn't react. What was the point? She had rushed into battle so eagerly, yet now there was absolutely no point in continuing that fight. After a few minutes, the shock started to wear off slightly, and the survival instincts kicked in. She quickly realized that a hyperdrive had been damaged, making it impossible to quickly escape. She was a sitting duck, but despite her initial response, she was not ready to be taken down. Working under pressure, Barnaby realized that there was a possibility to escape. Rather than going away from the blast, she could go towards it in the hope that the shockwaves would render the Coricon's tracking systems useless. She turned around and tried the hyperdrive. The system flickered and the engines became erratic, but by some miracle the hyperdrive worked. Within minutes, she was approaching the location where Earth formerly rested. She sped past the moon, which was clearly moving towards a new centre of gravity. The initial shockwave from the explosion had dissipated, but it appeared strong electromagnetic forces were in full effect in this area. Barnaby rapidly turned off her engines to avoid more damage and to increase her chances of hiding from the Coricons. She started simply floating through space, moving with the powerful waves that were currently shaking the solar system. In a dimly lit spaceship, she finally had a moment of peace. A million thoughts started rushing through her brain. She started thinking about her family, her friends, her home. All most definitely currently atoms floating through space, just like her. In some oddly poetic way, all she had known had become part of an unified cloud of molecules, all indistinguishable parts of a greater whole. Barnaby felt many emotions at this point, most of all, and quite understandably, a great sense of loss and grief. And staring out the window was also comforting. The remains of Earth were spreading through the universe like a slow-motion firework. Chemical reactions within the fire caused fragments to shimmer in beautiful hues. Barnaby floated for hours, her pain slowly turning to numbness and eventually sleep. Upon awaking, she realized that by now the Coricons would have left, leaving her as possibly the only survivor of the human race. And while before sleeping this realization would be met with tears, the shimmering and majestic beauty before her eyes filled Barnaby with a new wave of determination. She had spent her life trying to become a space fighter, but the title now seemed ridiculous. Everything she had known had been ridiculous. She suddenly realized that all she stood for, all she cared about, was part of the firework display in front of her, and what remained was a new shell, brimming with possibility. She turned on the engines, turned away from the center of the explosion, and started a slow journey into the future. And again, we don't have a choice at this point, but I believe there will be one in the next chapter. Is there one next chapter? No, the chapter after. But in the meantime, I'm going to be playing you Rock Bottom. Here it is. Excellent. Okay, right. So we've got now. Oh, fantastic. Lovely to see all your messages, by the way, in chat. Thank you everyone for turning up. Stefan, nice to see you. Dan, Connor, Drew. Oh, so many different names and people there. So I'm really, really excited to see everyone here. Hope you all are enjoying it. Steph's found out a track later on. It's called a New Nope. Depending on what path we go, we may read that out as well. In the meantime, let's continue our journey through space. This new chapter is called Outside the Window. Without a clear aim, Barnaby started a long journey through space. Bertha's hyperdrive damage meant it would be slow progress. Not that it mattered. Barnaby was traversing more out of instinct than purpose. She had considered a few possible options, the main one being travelling towards one of Earth's allies in distant galaxies. She wasn't enamoured by the idea, and as there was no guarantee that they would accept her and let her stay, travelling many light years to be turned away was a pretty bleak prospect. And besides, even if she did settle in one of those worlds, she wasn't convinced it would be much better than wandering through space. So instead, Barnaby had chosen a slightly worse option. She would just progress forward into space and see what happens. Maybe she would find something worthwhile, or maybe she would perish. At the very least, the view would be nice. In the following months, Barnaby slowly adjusted to a new life. Most days, she would follow a pretty similar routine, trying to keep active and not go insane. Bertha's computer contained almost unlimited source of entertainment, from reading to music to any film imaginable. However, Barnaby found herself mostly enjoying the quiet buzz of the engine and the beeping of the console. She would read and she would stare out into the vastness of space. She would gaze for hours at the stars and planets that passed her by, appreciating the beauty and diversity of it all. On rare days, she would land on a planet or a meteorite. There were well-known outposts throughout the universe where space fighters and other civilizations had previously left supplies. Barnaby visited these in the hope to find occasional tanks of hyperdrive fluid which she could use to speed up her travels. Although the hyperdrive system leaked and therefore only worked for brief intervals, it was better than nothing, and the stops were an excuse to visit some of the most interesting planets. Barnaby loved how each planet was unique, and she kept a notebook of all of her observations. On some days she would spend a whole day in bed. After all, if you got to process the loss of everything you have and everyone you have ever loved and your sudden identity crisis, you may as well do it from the comfort of your bed. At first the pain was almost unbearable. Barnaby still tried to suppress it, even though there was no one watching. Partly she mourned the death of those she loved, partly she felt she had lost herself with Earth. All she believed she was had turned out to be entirely irrelevant. Her hopes and dreams were tied to a world that no longer existed. What was the point in being a space fighter? What was she going to fight? Defend who? She had spent countless hours working towards nothing. Yet through time these thoughts became subdued. A general numbness overcame Barnaby, and she found a new sense of apathy taking over. She stopped less often for fuel and would spend more days in bed. She stopped taking notes on new planets in a notebook and often found she couldn't finish any of her books. After several months, Barnaby got a second wind. She was staring into space, and suddenly she caught herself smiling in the reflection. She was surprised by her reaction, and out of nowhere she just started laughing. The human brain is weird sometimes. Even when the only logical solution is giving up, it will never cease to try and find alternative paths. In this case, Barnaby suddenly realised that although her active brain was constantly pulling her down, her subconscious did not care. The thoughts in her head had become so thick that it was simply not possible for her to see the joy hidden deep inside her. But that was no more. Barnaby tried her absolute best to isolate the reason for her subconscious smile. She started to feel the warmth of the blanket. She heard the gentle hum of the engine, and she saw the unique beauty of the stars that surrounded her. The next morning she woke up early. She exercised and read a book. For the next 2 years she would still keep up the routine and fill tens of notebooks. She would still have whole days in bed, but she clung on to the happy thoughts for dear life. So again, we're going to go to chapter 42 after that. But in the meantime, I'm going to play you a song called Outside the Window. And because I have noticed that people who know music are here, this is also inspired by Air. For those who are feeling slightly down, because I realise that up to now these songs are, a bit bleak overall. I'm happy to let you know that what I call a depression cycle has completed, and we're now moving into the second half of the Christmas album, where all the more exciting, positive things are to occur. And we're starting off with a chapter called "What's That Coming Over the Hill?" Over 2 years had passed from the destruction of Earth. Barnaby had travelled many light years and had reached areas of space no human had ever seen before. On her travels she had had many adventures, from deadly encounters to incredible natural phenomena. In her first year she had almost lost Bertha to a volcano that had erupted just below her feet. She had managed to make it out of there by the skin of her teeth, losing only part of Bertha's paint and breaking a light. Another time, while checking an abandoned outpost for fuel and spare parts, she had almost let go of the wire connecting her to Bertha. Given the planet's almost non-existent gravity, she had started simply floating away before desperately managed to grab her lifeline. As for natural beauty, she had seen incredible lights illuminate certain areas of space. A phenomenon she had never heard of before, produced such vivid colours millions of kilometres away that Barnaby could swear she had seen completely new colours for the first time. One planet had suffered great plate movements that had caused phenomenal mountains and chasms to litter the surface. In the setting sun, the play of light and dark was like nothing Bertha had ever seen before. She took notes of all these sights in her notebooks. The one thing that Barnaby had not encountered was sentient life, even. She had visited nearly 100 planets, but she had yet to find traces of civilization. She had found planets with lush forests of purple trees, which moved around and intertwined like in a dance. She also found countless oceans which appeared to harbour plants and creatures ranging from molecular to the size of mountains. On one planet she had seen some animals lurk in the shadows, only to disappear when Barnaby shone a torch towards them. It appeared that they were themselves ethereal, their bodies not actually composed of matter. None of these planets however contained anything capable of communication. In a way, Barnaby had been content with her loneliness. She had a lot to process and had welcomed the space and time to do so. It had been a difficult couple of years, and Barnaby had found happiness in her routine. She had found out what she enjoyed most was exploring these different worlds. She had even recently come to wonder whether she had wanted to be a space fighter simply because she wanted to see the universe. She knew it was unlikely anyone would find her notebooks, and it didn't really matter. She didn't do it because she thought she should. She did it because it made her happy. She didn't question why. She just accepted that this was the case. Recently, however, she had gotten restless. The loneliness that had protected her had slowly become a cause of concern. The subconscious that had helped her find joy from nothingness was now pulsating again and with unease. Barnaby knew that she had been alone long enough, and that a new basic need was emerging, a social need. In the past few months, she had been visiting more planets. She was hoping to stumble across someone, maybe a place to settle down for a while. One day she came across a planet that looked promising. While approaching it, she had seen traces of vegetation, and Bertha had told her that the conditions were promising for animal life. But what was possible and most intriguing was the presence of some kind of radio signal. Barnaby couldn't quite make out what the signal was, but she had stumbled across natural waves that had similar characteristics. It was definitely interesting. She started approaching the planet's atmosphere, scouting for a location to land. Suddenly, the light from the sun bounced off something and hit Barnaby's eye. Intrigued, she processed towards the source of light reflection. She was getting close when she realized that it was in fact a spaceship, with smoke coming out of it. In the distance, she could see rudimentary houses. Her excitement turned into fear when she realized Coricon flags were flying around the roofs. So, we have a choice now, everyone, and I would like you to vote in the comments. There's 3 possible paths that you can take. You can brave it and explore the settlement. You can, emboldened by this close experience, attempt to find a way to get back home. This is space after all, someone must know a way. Or, turn back and continue the onward journey through the universe. Better luck next time. So, just to kind of put it into terms, you can explore the what you have just seen, the settlement, or you can try and go back home, whatever that would mean. or you can just keep on your journey and see where it goes. So make your choice while the next song is playing. This is What's Coming Over That Hill. Alrighty, I see quite a few messages of what we should do next, and it appears that the vast majority of people want to explore. In fact, I think it's 100% explore, which means we're going to be venturing towards the settlement. Actually, Steph will be happy to know this the new chapter is called A New Nope. You mentioned it earlier. Oh, and by the way, this isn't really a face reveal. It's probably something like 3,500 videos with my face online. You just have to find it, basically, so it's not really a face reveal, but you know, hey, hello, this is me, this is Rob, nice to see you all. Okay, let's keep on reading. A New Nope. Bertha slowly approached the ship. Barnaby had powered down the engine and made sure that she produced as little noise as possible. These were the first traces of other sentient life she had seen in the 2 years, and if she was not careful, they may be her last. Bertha landed in an open patch of vegetation close to the ship, but far enough to not be spotted. Barnaby was relieved that the air and gravity were akin to Earth, so she could leave the spaceship without a spacesuit. For the first time in her travels, she wished she had some kind of weapon, but she had not found a working one in any of the outposts. Slowly she approached the ship. She noticed smoke coming from one of the engines. She wasn't a mechanic, but it did seem that the ship was probably damaged to the point of being unusable. Barnaby reached the ship and cautiously looked in. It seemed like the ship had recently crashed, with the original pilot or pilots were not there. The main console was broadcasting a signal into space, presumably a call for help. After a moment to assess the situation, Barnaby realized that this was an extraordinary opportunity. She had noticed upon examining the exterior of the ship that the hyperdrive system was completely intact. The issues to Bertha's hyperdrive system were mainly due to a leaking connection between the fuel tank and the engine, which allowed a large quantity of fuel to escape. Now, standing right in front of her was an oddly shaped tool, which Barnaby believed may be able to unscrew the connection in this ship and install it in Bertha. Barnaby considered the moral implications for a second. However, she quickly realised that firstly, there was no guarantee the inhabitants of the ship were friendly or even alive, and secondly, if they were friendly, they may appreciate a ride. All in all, taking apart seemed like the reasonable option. She quickly got to work, and within half hour, Bertha's hyperdrive appeared to be functioning again. It was now time to investigate the planet further. She had seen houses while flying nearby, and knew houses meant endless possibilities. She quickly walked a distance and decided to hide in some vegetation to see what creatures inhabited this world. Suddenly she saw them. At first she saw one or two, but quickly she realised this was a town bustling with life. The creatures were four-legged, The skin was pale purple and they had a huge trunk coming out of their backs. They did not appear to be threatening, but it was clear that they were capable of communication and complex thought. Barnaby noticed an odd juxtaposition of images. On the one hand, their clothing and buildings appeared to be almost primitive, much like images of cavemen found in Earth's textbooks. On the other, they clearly had access to advanced technology. Stone and wooden structures stood alongside electronic devices. The creatures themselves wore several futuristic items on their bodies, some of their arms and legs, as well as intricate headwear. Unbeknownst to Barnaby, she had stumbled across the Humanites, a civilization that had barely passed the Stone Age when they came in contact with none other than the Coricons, who had passed on much knowledge and advanced materials in exchange for setting up Einsteinium mines on the planet. While observing these creatures, Barnaby noticed that in the town square there was a wooden cage, protected by electricity barriers. Inside, she saw a different creature. Barnaby's eyes widened when she realized that the creature was human, or at the very least humanoid. She could barely make out a head of light blue hair, 2 arms and 2 legs. Her skin was much fairer than Barnaby's, but she was undoubtedly sentient, and she was undoubtedly locked in a cage. Barnaby was completely focused on her when she suddenly realized that a dozen or so of the creatures were running at great speed towards her. If she had any doubts about their intentions, their sharp teeth and angry faces made their plans obvious to Barnaby. She started running towards Bertha, and in the background she could hear horns being sounded, and the tremor of stampeding feet get stronger and stronger. Luckily, Barnaby narrowly made it to the ship and closed the door. So, once again, we have a choice at this stage. So again, get ready to vote in the comments. You can either attempt a daring rescue of the girl, or you can continue your journey towards new galaxies, or you can focus on finding a way to return back home. Put your votes in the comments while I put on the next song, which is A New Nope. Alrighty, danger, adventure, all happening at once. Okay, there's been a few votes, which is great. Everyone's voted to rescue the girl. Ho ho ho! Let's go and see what that implies. Chapter 45. So just finding it. This song is called, well, this chapter is called "Night in Shining Spacesuit." By the way, if I stumble slightly, it's because I, obviously after a lot of reading, it's, slightly getting tired, and that's fine. But just, if I stumble, that's all. Barnaby took a deep breath. She had not seen a single sentient being in 2 years, and now tens of them were climbing over Bertha. These creatures, which in her head she called biters, did not seem interested in discussing the latest novel she had read. The biters, surprisingly, seemed to mainly want to bite. At first, Barnaby was concerned that the devices they were wearing were weapons, but after a few minutes it became clear that if biters had weapons, they were not currently wearing any. What did seem concerning was the fact that they seemed to be talking into the devices using their trunks, which suggests they were calling for some kind of backup, possibly with weapons. Barnaby knew she had to get out of there fast. She turned on the engines and prepared for liftoff. Then she suddenly remembered that the humanoid she had seen in the town square. Who was she? It was more than likely that the crash ship was hers. There was, however, no guarantee that she wasn't a threat. And yet, a voice in Barnaby's head was telling her that she was safe. In fact, the voice was telling her that she had to go back for her. The biters were clearly getting more restless, and Barnaby could see more biters coming towards her from the town, carrying some menacing tools. She could clearly see something that looked like a drill, which was clearly intended for poor Bertha. Making a swift decision, Barnaby decided that she was going to save the prisoner, whatever the consequences. Barnaby took off with her spaceship. She flew a few hundred meters away from the town, making sure the biters were watching her. She then landed Bertha in a new clearance. The biters stood still for a second, and then, without speaking, they immediately made their way towards the ship. Once they reached it, Barnaby took off again, once more flying a few hundred meters away. While in the air, she noticed that almost 60 biters had now joined the group, and while a few more were still making their way over, the influx from the town had ceased. Barnaby repeated the same procedure a few more times, slowly drawing the creatures away from their town. With each move, the biters were getting progressively angrier. Some had stopped and were setting up defensive devices that were clearly intended to stop Barnaby. Sensing that these machines could cause some complications, and having moved far enough from the town, Barnaby took off again, but this time made a straight line to the town centre. The biters suddenly realised what had happened. Absolutely furious, they started running towards the town, screaming and biting their teeth. But by now, they were almost a full kilometre away, and the town was deserted. Every single biter had decided to follow the ship, leaving the town exposed. Barnaby quickly landed. She grabbed a hammer she found lying on the floor and ran towards the cage. The humanoid was clearly frightened, but upon seeing that Barnaby was destroying the electric charges with the hammer, she realised that this was an escape attempt. Once the electric traps were disabled, Barnaby took out a small knife and began cutting through the ropes in the wooden cage. It was slow progress, but the cage was sturdy and designed to withstand physical damage. In the meantime, the horde of biters was rapidly covering the distance. To complicate matters, Barnaby spotted in the corner of her eye a further issue. It appeared that these creatures had spaceships of their own. It wasn't clear whether they would work, as they combined electronic elements, engines and other devices with simple stone and wood, but if they did fly, Barnaby was in for a chase. At that moment, one of the ropes snapped, releasing several wooden branches. The humanoid was free. Barnaby quickly ushered her. Sorry, my brain is melting here. Barnaby quickly ushered her to the waiting ship. They climbed in moments before the biters reached them. As fast as they could, Barnaby turned on the engine and blasted into space. "Hi, I'm Lucy," said the girl in perfect human. Not a choice at the end of this one, but we're going to play the song "Night in Shining Spacesuit." Excellent. Right, let me just get everything sorted once more. So there's 3 different things I need to click every time I switch from one to the other. Alrighty. So, exciting things are happening. We have an introduction of a new character. I'm sorry, I'm getting excited about it, but again, thank you for your lovely messages that are still coming in. Alrighty, I will continue. So, chapter 21. Well, The Grand Escape. Hi, I'm Barnaby Cosmo, Space, said Barnaby, pausing for a second. Explorer. The two stared at each other for a second, unsure of the other's intentions. The moment was certainly awkward, but luckily it was cut short from a ray flew past the main window of the spaceship. Barnaby looked at Bertha's monitors. They'd barely left the surface of the planet already. The radar was picking up signals from ships in pursuit. Barnaby pushed full throttle ahead, dodging a few shots and gaining at least some distance. Lucy, as if that was her name, quickly sat in the co-pilot seat. The seat had been empty for years, mostly gathering dust. Barnaby was taken by surprise, as she had grown used to flying the ship by herself. But as soon as Lucy started shouting readings from the various beeping consoles, her initial skepticism was abandoned. Besides, they had more pressing issues at hand. The biters were maybe not the most advanced civilization in the universe, but they could certainly fly. The spaceship seemed like they were barely holding together, and yet they were keeping pace with Bertha. Roughly 10 ships were on their tail, some firing advanced laser beams, while others flinging rocks through space, which was admittedly not as efficient. Barnaby tried a few evasive maneuvers, first executing rapid changes in trajectory to confuse the biters. This was oddly successful, as Barnaby noticed as a few of those ships literally falling apart due to strain on the ropes holding them together. But the danger was not over, as other ships managed to stay on course. Lucy noticed a series of meteorites that could create problems and pointed them out to Barnaby. Barnaby turned the ship sharply and weaved through the meteorites, narrowly missing a crash, but ultimately confusing several ships that came fully to a stop. Only a few more ships remained on their tail. We should find a clear area and go into hyperdrive, said Lucy, assessing their options. Barnaby agreed, having just recently stolen fuel from Lucy's ship. She looked around for clearing from the meteorites and proceeded to start hyperdrive procedure. Suddenly, disaster struck. Without any warning, Bertha came to a full stop. Barnaby and Lucy were pushing full force towards the console, but luckily were strapped into their respective chairs. At first, neither had any idea what had just happened, but they quickly noticed a grid-like pattern had appeared outside the window. It seemed ridiculous to say it out loud, but they both realized that they had just been caught in a giant net. It appeared that the biters had strung a number of these nets from meteorites to catch wandering ships. Barnaby actually burst out laughing at the situation. It was crazy to her that in the age of space travel, the biters still chose to capture people using simple nets. And even more crazy was the fact it had worked. Lucy was very confused with the laughter, but after a moment she cracked and joined in. This was truly a weird situation. The biters had not quite reached them yet, but they were certainly near. Barnaby tried pushing through the nets. She reasoned that a simple rope net would easily break if forced by a ship at full power. But the rope stood firm, almost as if it was black steel. Lucy suggested reversing. Luckily the net was taut, meaning the back of Bertha was not yet caught. With a bit of manoeuvring, Barnaby released Bertha from the trap. The biters had finally caught up and were clearly surprised that the trap had not worked as intended. Their curiosity seemed to be overpowering their sense to capture the ship, and they moved towards the net to investigate. Suddenly, the winches holding the net to the asteroid gave way, and the net was flung across. The remaining biter ships were captured in their own net and struggling to get free. In the confusion, Lucy directed Barnaby to a safe spot, and they entered hyperdrive. It had been a close encounter, but they had survived, and yet the journey was just beginning. Right, so we're going to go next chapter in a second, but in the meantime, this is The Grand Escape. Yeah, that was Grand Escape. I think a lot of people quite like that one. I've seen the comments, Drew, you saying they think that's your favourite song. Oh, excited. And Noodle was also saying very excited. Rafi in the room said that he was very excited for this one. Great. I'm glad everyone is enjoying these albums. Oh, okay, here I am again. Oh, fantastic. Let's keep on going on our adventure. Now, this is chapter 26, Close Encounters. I wonder what that means. Exciting. I don't know. I just talked to myself here, aren't I? Okay. So, following their narrow escape, Barnaby and Lucy finally had a second to relax. Barnaby slowed the engines and engaged autopilot, letting the ship calmly travel through a new galaxy. She looked awkwardly at Lucy, not entirely sure what to say. She was fairly certain Lucy wasn't a threat, and even admired her for her navigation skills and general serenity in the high-octane situation they had just encountered. Luckily, Lucy broke the silence. "Thank you. I really thought I was going to be eaten there," Lucy said, genuinely. The conversation started from there. At first, it was all rather formal, both Barnaby and Lucy asking circumstantial questions to help ease their nerves. Then the conversation slowly became more relaxed, and they began sharing their stories and lives. Barnaby was a bit out of practice with conversations, but the excitement of talking with a new live person quickly took over. Lucy also seemed happy to share experiences with someone, as she too had spent some time wandering the universe alone. The two didn't know what the encounter between them was. Sorry, the two of them didn't know that the encounter between them was extraordinarily unlikely. Lucy came from a planet called Aqua in the Jovial Galaxy. She was not a space fighter or a space explorer, she was a captive. While visiting a nearby planet, she had been intercepted by a spaceship populated by the Gregories, an octopus-like species obsessed with chairs. Gregories are not often aggressive, but they are constantly looking for objects and people they can trade for exotic chairs. When they saw Lucy casually floating in space, they captured her ship and took her with them as a bargaining chip. Eventually, Lucy escaped, but crash landed on a planet where Barnaby had found her. Now, this does not seem like an unlikely encounter. What was unlikely was the similarities between Barnaby and Lucy. Aqua and Earth had evolved almost in parallel. The species that inhabited these worlds were biologically identical, give or take a few details. They were so similar they were in fact the same species. They shared similar values, traditions, and even had the same language. The chance of these two species never meeting but evolving into essentially the same species is, in mathematical terms, nothing short of a miracle. Barnaby and Lucy meeting was an impossibility manifest. They of course did not realise this. They found the similarities odd, but didn't dwell on them too much. Besides, they had a lot to talk about, and talk they did for hours. Eventually, they fell asleep on the chairs, each too stubborn to take to bed. When they woke up, they continued talking. For months. On occasion, they would visit different planets and Barnaby would continue writing in notebooks, this time enhanced by Lucy's drawings. They collected resources and watched entire worlds before them together. They eventually found a second bed so they could both sleep well, but after a few months, the two beds just became one bed. Some may say that they fell in love because they were the only people in the world, but this is simply not true. Barnaby genuinely admired Lucy for what she was, a light-hearted and kind person, fantastic drawer, and a selfless and loyal companion. Lucy loved Barnaby for her fierceness and strength, which protected a vulnerable core, for intelligence and passion, for ability to see beauty in everything, no matter the circumstances of the meeting. They were a formidable couple, ready to take on the universe. They escaped near death multiple times, often surviving through luck and sheer determination. After each encounter, they would spend time together in Bertha, tending to their wounds, laughing, talking, reading, fighting, and dreaming. The universe was perfect, and yet both deep inside were missing something. Lucy longed to return home, partly to see her family, and partly because she wanted to settle down. Barnaby had no planet to return to, but begun to feel the need to seek out any survivors to help them to build a future together. And here we go, another choice. You can either focus on discovering a way to return home, or you can travel back to Lucy's home planet Aqua. In the meantime, I'm going to play the song Close Encounters. Here it is. what a lovely, sweet tune. So we got a bit of votes already in about what should be done. Oh, everyone seems to suggest Aqua, to go back to Aqua. That's fair enough. We're going to go to chapter 69. Nice. And yeah, everyone say Aqua. Yeah, fair enough. You know, that's the right thing to do, I guess. So this chapter is called Do It For Her. Slight Sly Simpson reference there. Barnaby had begun to feel an uneasiness in Lucy's behaviour. For over a year now they had been travelling across the universe, guided more by instinct than a precise goal. They had chosen directions to travel almost randomly, at most dictated by the galaxy that shined with the nicest colours. On a few occasions they had actively avoided areas that seemed inhabited, both having had bad experiences with unknown civilizations. With a new hyperdrive system in place, travel had become easier. They still had to stop at abandoned outposts for fuel, but overall they could travel further and faster. With the right stops and a bit of luck, they were in a position to reach pretty much any corner of the known universe within a reasonable time. The possibilities of going anywhere had clearly been on Lucy and Barnaby's mind. Barnaby had always wondered if anybody else had survived. Earth's destruction had survived Earth's destruction and had occasionally dreamt about going back to look for clues for survival. Lucy, on the other hand, knew for certain that people were out there waiting for her. When she was kidnapped, she had left behind family, friends, and a home. They were likely assuming that she was dead, but the prospect of being reunited was enticing. Initially, the thought of going home hadn't crossed Lucy's mind. She was very content with her new life and greatly enjoyed visiting the new planets with Barnaby, while also exploring the dark recesses of space. But with time, the longing for home had become stronger, making her feel moody and uneasy. She didn't just feel an obligation to return, but almost a need. She loved Barnaby deeply and loved every moment spent together. Barnaby was attentive, supportive and understanding. Yet Lucy still felt lonely. Barnaby was aware of Lucy's feelings and tried to help as much as she could, but ultimately Barnaby knew that the only solution was to help Lucy return home. And so they talked, shared dreams of the future, and resolved to find a way back to Aqua. Their once aimless travels became purposeful. They didn't stop at planets to explore, but only to gather the necessary fuel for the trip. They did not know the way to Aqua, and Barnaby's navigation system did not know this part of the universe, so they started looking for other civilizations that could help them. A travelling merchant named Kurjun pointed them towards the Humtan galaxy, where the civilization of the Ninams lived. The Ninams were composed of only 10 individuals who shared a hive mind. The corporeal bodies took many shapes, but the hive mind governed over all 10. They had spent millennia collecting knowledge, which they kept in a floating library in space. Barnaby shared many of her notebooks with the Ninams, who in turn provided an upgrade to Bertha's navigation system. After some weeks at the library, Barnaby and Lucy set off towards home. The journey took many months, often filled with perils. Lucy's mood had brightened, but Barnaby was secretly worried. She did not want to lose Lucy, and she was worried that bringing Lucy home would ultimately break their relationship. She kept these thoughts hidden, as she did not want to worry Lucy. Eventually, Bertha started approaching Aqua. The big blue planet became visible in the window, firstly as a small dot in space, but then slowly bigger and bigger. Barnaby had heard about Lucy's home planet, but seeing it in real life was different. Aqua's surface was mainly water, with large patches of green aquatic vegetation and occasional patches of land, brightly lit in the darkness of space. Nearby planets had similar bright patches, indicating space colonies that had been established throughout the star system. Bertha landed in Lucy's hometown of Marinia, where she was greeted by her family. There were many tears of joy, and Barnaby was welcomed with open arms. The residents of Marinia listened in awe to their adventures, and Barnaby's notebooks were considered important scholarly works by the city elders. Over a few weeks, Lucy and Barnaby settled into one of the houses provided by the city. Lucy was overjoyed to be home, and Barnaby was happy for her, although deep inside she felt envious of what she did not have. So once again, we have a choice, everyone. You can stay on Aqua with Lucy, or you can focus on finding a way to return back home. Vote now in the comments while the song plays. This is Do It For Her. Excellent. I think Ruth's outside, by the way. I heard the doorbell. So we got my cousin coming back, so I want to make sure we got him in. Yes. So exciting things are happening here. I like how everyone's voted stay in like big capital letters. You have to stay. Booga, I'm afraid, unfortunately, I think the majority of people do want to stay on Aqua. So that's what we're going to be doing. So chapter 63. Here we go. So I would like to remind you all that the book is available. You can just download it. There should be links in this video. So if you are unhappy with any of the choices that have been made up to this point, you can go back and make different choices. That's 100% allowed. Okay, so this is called A Better Life. Barnaby could see the sun rising from outside the window. Her and Lucy had settled to one of the houses in Marinia, and slowly she was getting used to their new life. There were still odd things that she couldn't quite get adjusted to, and the sun rising each morning was one of them. For years, Barnaby had travelled across the expanses of the universe, past ever-changing panoramas, each of which had provided a completely different waking experience. Her internal clock had become completely independent of any solar stimulus, and she sometimes travelled for months in complete darkness, and sometimes the light of a bright star would illuminate Bertha. For Barnaby, the experience of a regular day and night cycle was as alien as the planet she currently inhabited. Nonetheless, the prospect of waking beside Lucy each morning was sufficient to keep Barnaby attached to this new world. At the start, she had been restless, always ready to jump into Bertha to fly away. Barnaby felt almost a need to journey, to keep on moving. At first, she thought that her desire to go was merely a sign that she missed home. But she had come to realise that Earth was not what she wanted. It was the wanderlust that drove her. And yet, Barnaby had not acted upon her desires. Sure, she had talked about it to Lucy and expressed her concerns, but then she would see how happy Lucy was in Marinia. She could see that this was where Lucy belonged, and by proxy where she belonged. So Barnaby had made a conscious effort to give this new way of life a shot. The local university was extremely interested in Barnaby's journals, as well as the stories she had to offer. Barnaby's accounts of distant planets and lives were groundbreaking in several fields, from botany, astronomy to even physics and mathematics. She collected odd items and trinkets that clearly were advanced technologies of greater importance. Bertha had been recording data that was proving to be revolutionary. But more than anything, Barnaby realised that she enjoyed the opportunity to engage in research. She happily answered questions, gave lectures, and even began sorting her journals for publication. The city of Marinia awarded a special fellowship to Barnaby, which allowed her to carry on any research she wanted, with a big budget. With Lucy's help, they began conducting small explorations of nearby galaxies, gathering new and exciting data. Eventually, Barnaby established the first interplanetary space science committee, which united most of the well-known civilizations in a universal attempt to share knowledge. However, despite frequent expeditions and meetings, Barnaby and Lucy always returned home at the end of the journey. Years went by and Barnaby thought less and less about leaving Aqua. Him and Lucy expanded their home with 2 blue-eyed children who kept their hands busy. Like all couples, they had their ups and downs, but they worked through the rough patches and were extremely happy. They truly loved each other. Neither of them believed in soulmates, and yet here they were, despite the trillions of miles that separated them at birth. Barnaby's favourite moments were when, late at night, the two of them would lie on a patch of grass in their back garden and look up at the stars together. Sometimes they would talk. Others, they would simply watch, hand in hand. In these moments, the universe was no longer infinite, but entirely contained within a small house on a very blue planet. And that is the end. So, I'm going to play you the last song, and then I will conclude everything. So, this is A Better Life. And there we go. That is essentially the Christmas album done. As I said, there is multiple endings, multiple paths you can take. There is, I think, 16 endings overall, although there's only like 3 major groups of endings, essentially. There's 3 major things and there's small variations. What you just heard there was what I would call the romantic ending, which is very nice. There's also the exciting ending, and there's the meh ending. So have a look and see what you can do. But no, thank you very much everyone for turning up. It was great to be able to share this work with you all. I'm so glad that it's out there now, and your responses have been it's been really, really nice. So thank you everyone for all your lovely messages. I've been checking chat this entire time, and it's just nice to see you all in there and happy to share this moment. As I said, the book is available. You can find it on there's a Dropbox link. It's also on Amazon for Kindle. It's like 77p. I couldn't put it any lower than that, unfortunately, because they wouldn't let me. The music is on Spotify and like every single other possible place you can find music. It's all on there, so feel free to kind of listen through all of that. For the treasure hunt, final few notes, because I've seen some of you may be interested in this kind of stuff. Treasure hunt, again, if you missed it, there's a £250 prize to be won for the first person to complete the treasure hunt. And again, all you need is the book. The book is the book is where you start. And the thing you want to do is to look out for what is different, right? Now you understand how the book works, how songs and chapters are connected. Find where that doesn't happen and see what you can do with that. Okay, so there you go. That's all the clues I will be giving for now. There is a Discord. Join my Discord if you want more clues. There's a treasure hunt chat, and I will be checking that. So if I see that people are stuck on something, I will be giving you clues. But of course, in order for me to know if you're stuck, you need to be posting there. Otherwise, I don't know where people are. basically. That is everything. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining me for this lovely live stream. It's been a lovely occasion, and I will see you all in the next one. I hope you enjoy the rest of the album, and I hope you have a good, Christmas period now. Exactly, seeing the Christmas albums here. That is everything. Vault Hunter Season 2 is starting very, very soon. We should be recording as soon as 1.18 comes out. So, exciting stuff to come. But apart from that, that is everything from me. Thank you, everyone, for joining, and I'll see you all in the next one. Cheers, and